In this episode, we shift from hardware and system visibility to software authority, which is one of the most underestimated elements of control maturity. Most breaches do not begin with an attacker physically touching a server. They begin with software, whether that software is outdated, misconfigured, unauthorized, or malicious. Establishing software asset authority means deciding what software is allowed, how it is approved, how licensing is managed, and how execution is controlled. Without clear authority, environments become unpredictable, and unpredictability creates risk. By the end of this discussion, you should understand why approved software lists matter, how licensing and governance intersect, and where control points exist to enforce software discipline across the enterprise. Before we continue, a quick note. This audio course is a companion to our course companion books. The first book is about the exam and provides detailed information on how to pass it best. The second book is a Kindle-only ebook that contains 1,000 flashcards that can be used on your mobile device or Kindle. Check them both out at Cyber.Author.me in the Bare Metal Study Guide series. Software asset authority begins with a simple principle. Not all software should be permitted to run in an enterprise environment. While that may sound obvious, many organizations allow software sprawl to develop over time. Teams install tools to solve immediate problems. Individuals download utilities that make their work easier. Developers test packages and libraries rapidly. Over months and years, this behavior can create a patchwork of applications with unknown security properties. The first step toward authority is establishing a formally approved list of software that is authorized for use. This list represents deliberate decisions rather than accidental accumulation. An approved software list is not merely a catalog of everything currently installed. It is a curated set of applications that have been reviewed for business need, security posture, and compatibility with organizational policies. Approval typically involves evaluating vendor reputation, update practices, vulnerability history, and licensing terms. The purpose is to reduce exposure to unnecessary risk while still supporting productivity. On the exam, if asked how to reduce unauthorized software risk, the strongest answer usually involves formal approval processes rather than informal guidance or user discretion. However, creating an approved list alone does not establish authority. Authority requires enforcement and lifecycle management. Software must be reviewed periodically to ensure it remains supported and aligned with organizational standards. A tool that was secure and well-maintained 3 years ago may no longer receive updates. Vendors may change ownership, discontinue products, or shift licensing terms. Governance requires revisiting approvals to confirm they remain valid. This ongoing review prevents the approved list from becoming stale and misaligned with current risk realities. Licensing realities add another layer of complexity. Software licensing is not only a financial concern, it is also a governance concern. Improper licensing can expose organizations to legal risk and audit penalties. Over-licensing wastes resources, while under-licensing violates agreements. Establishing software authority includes maintaining visibility into license counts, entitlements, and usage patterns. Accurate asset inventories support this effort by tying installations to specific systems and users. On the exam, questions about software governance may test whether you recognize that compliance includes both security and contractual obligations. Control points are the mechanisms through which authority is enforced. These include centralized deployment systems, configuration management tools, and execution control mechanisms. When software installation is restricted to authorized channels, unauthorized applications are less likely to proliferate. Control points create consistency. For example, requiring administrative approval for new installations or restricting user privileges reduces the risk of unmanaged software. While implementation details vary, the principle remains the same. Authority must be backed by enforceable controls. Another important concept is the difference between sanctioned and unsanctioned software. Sanctioned software appears on the approved list and is deployed through managed processes. Unsanctioned software may not be malicious, but it lacks review and oversight. The risk of unsanctioned software lies in unknown vulnerabilities, incompatible configurations, or hidden data handling practices. Establishing authority means detecting and addressing unsanctioned installations promptly. Detection mechanisms and monitoring processes will be explored further in later discussions, but the governance foundation begins here with clear definitions. Software authority also intersects with vulnerability management. Approved software must be monitored for security updates and patches. If the organization authorizes an application, it implicitly accepts responsibility for maintaining it securely. That includes tracking vendor advisories, applying patches, and validating compatibility. An approved list without update discipline becomes a liability. On the exam, when evaluating the maturity of a software management program, look for evidence of lifecycle oversight rather than static approval. It is also useful to consider the concept of least functionality. Least functionality means systems should only have the software necessary to perform their intended role. Excess applications increase attack surface and administrative complexity. For example, installing development tools on production servers may introduce unnecessary risk. Establishing software authority, therefore, includes defining role-based software baselines. These baselines specify what types of systems are permitted to run which applications. On the exam, answers that reduce unnecessary software exposure often align with this principle. Shadow software presents another challenge. Shadow software refers to applications installed or used without central approval. This may include cloud-based productivity tools, collaboration platforms, or file-sharing services adopted by teams independently. While these tools may solve immediate business problems, they introduce visibility and data governance concerns. Authority requires processes for identifying shadow software and either formally approving or prohibiting it. Ignoring shadow software does not eliminate risk, it merely hides it. Recognizing this dynamic is essential when analyzing scenario questions involving unexpected data exposure. Establishing software authority also supports incident response. When an incident occurs, responders must quickly determine whether affected systems were running authorized applications or unknown software. If inventories and approval records are accurate, responders can focus investigation efforts more efficiently. Conversely, if software sprawl exists, responders waste time identifying what should and should not be present. On the exam, understanding how software governance strengthens other control areas can help you select answers that emphasize systemic benefits. Another dimension is exception management. There may be legitimate reasons to allow software that falls outside the standard approved list. In such cases, governance requires documenting the business justification, assessing risk, defining compensating controls if needed, and setting review timelines. Exceptions should not be indefinite or informal. They should be tracked and revisited. This ensures flexibility without sacrificing oversight. On the exam, mature governance answers usually include structured exception processes rather than ad hoc approvals. Software authority also benefits from transparency and communication. Users should understand how to request new software, what criteria are used for evaluation, and why certain applications are restricted. Clear communication reduces frustration and encourages compliance. When processes are opaque or slow, users are more likely to bypass them. Governance is therefore not only about restriction, but also about enabling secure productivity. This balance often appears in exam questions where the correct answer preserves business functionality while enforcing control. Metrics again support authority. Organizations can measure the percentage of systems running only approved software, the number of unauthorized installations detected, or the time required to evaluate new software requests. These metrics provide insight into control health and adoption. Reporting these metrics to leadership reinforces accountability and supports resource decisions. If unauthorized installations trend upward, leadership can investigate underlying causes such as insufficient user education or inadequate enforcement. In summary, establishing software asset authority requires defining approved applications, managing licensing realities, and enforcing control points that prevent unauthorized execution. Authority transforms software management from reactive cleanup to proactive governance. Approved lists provide clarity. Licensing oversight protects against contractual risk. Control points ensure compliance with defined standards. Exception processes preserve flexibility while maintaining oversight. Together, these elements reduce attack surface, strengthen compliance posture, and improve operational resilience. Understanding this integrated approach prepares you to interpret exam questions with clarity and to recognize software governance as a central pillar of effective cybersecurity control implementation.
Thanks for listening. For more audio courses, daily newsletters, and more, please visit baremetalcyber.com.